On today's episode of 6-1 Forward, I'm with Columbus City Council President Shannon Hardin. Shannon, thank you so much for being here
I
today.
am so excited about today's conversation.
Oh, there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot going on.
Yes.
But before we get into what is happening now, let's talk about where and how you came to be Columbus City Council President. This is your 11th year.
Of my 11th year, October 6th, I was appointed
Congratulations.
2020, 2013, 2014.
And you were 27?
I was 27 years old when I was appointed council.
I was thinking about that last night. I remember when that happened, and I feel like today, if there was a 27-year-old who was part of city council or who ran and, won, it would be a big deal. And I don't remember your age being really something that was a big factor or that we talked about a lot back then. Was it?
I felt it. I mean, they used to call me like the kid on council or folks around here. I hated it, but they used to call me Baby Barack. And someday they just stopped calling me that. So I was like, oh, it's because I'm getting older
Done.
now.
Yeah, that's done.
Yes. But no, I was born and raised here in Columbus, and it's actually 100% full circle. That my mom was the front desk clerk at City Council when I was born.
Here, in this building.
In this building. And even though, by the time I was of age, my mom was a single mother and we were living down on the far south side of Columbus. And again, she was, an assistant and answering the phones. The proximity of, and I make the joke, I'm the product of one too many take your child to work days, where a kid who nothing in the pedigree would say
Sure.
that I should be council president, but because my mom kept me in proximity to people who were council members and mayors, and I was literally in this building all the time, you realize, well, I'm not any different than these folks.
Right.
I didn't know that I shouldn't or couldn't be this thing. And so I really did fall in love with local government. All the political side, knocking on doors since we were a little kid. I remember my brother and sister are twins. My mom pushing the stroller. They're 5 years younger than me, and me running up to the door, putting the pamphlets indoors. That's like literally my earliest memories of fall and the weekends was knocking on doors. And then every internship that I've ever had, every opportunity to do something civically, it was volunteering in some version of the part of the city. Specifically, what really got me connected to, okay, this is what I want to do, was I went to Columbus Alternative High School, COS, and we had Wednesday internship. I chose to intern in what was then called the Mayor's Action Center. It was the precursor to the 311 call center. It was two little white ladies, one lady named Miss Mary Funk, who has passed now, but she literally is as important to my why I'm here. It's anybody in the world to me. But we would answer the phones. People would call in with their concerns, and they would usually go like this: the trash man skipped my house, and I'm pissed about it. And what I learned in interning there for 3 years was that people, when they call in like that, actually weren't even calling in expecting to get their problem fixed. They had so low expectations for their government or this thing that was supposed to be for them that they would just, they were just lodging a complaint. So to be able to click over, call the refuse department and say, could you send the truck back out to XYZ? And then click back over and tell that person that, this is, if you're home, the trash will be picked up, in a small but in a very large way, started to change their relationship or their thought process about this thing is city government being mine or for me, and it serves me. And I fell in love with that ability to do that. So I did that all through high school, and in college, I would come back and work in different departments. I was a fiscal intern in the Department of Utilities in college, and it's funny because I can barely add, terrible at math.
Gosh.
But it was a really intense. So it taught me like the just different parts of the city, and I got to meet the thousands of people who work every day who you never get to see, but who are the backbone of this city. And so when I graduated from college, the mayor, Coleman, who had seen me all these years around doing all this stuff, asked me to come work in his office, and I said yes, and fast forward in 5 years, I had moved up to being external affairs director. So I was running all of his external engagement, and it was a flight. Excuse me. It was a flight coming back from Florida when we were coming back from the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and the mayor said, "It's time for you to leave my office. I think you should run for office." I was 26 then, and I said, "Mayor, I'm too young. I'm too liberal for." I said, "That was right. I'm too liberal for this city." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "I'm young. I'm 26 years old." He's like, "Yeah, okay." I said, "Well, Mayor, I'm too liberal for this city." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I'm young and I'm black." And he was like, "Bruh, I'm really confused now. Like, of
Right.
course you're black."
Right.
And I'm like, "No, Mayor, I'm young, I'm black, and I'm gay." And he's like, "Oh, is this what this is about?" And he said, "This is only a problem if you think it's a problem. This is actually why I'm having this conversation with you, because this city is changing, it's becoming younger and more diverse, and the city has to see itself in its representatives, or it will stop believing, it will stop following. So that's why I encourage you." And that was the shift where, even though I always knew I was going to work in local government, I didn't know or think that I needed to be the principal or to be the elected official. And that was the first time I thought, well, oh, maybe these different parts of my life can come together to inspire, to connect different people to their government. And so that started my journey to city council.
It's one thing to literally grow up in this building, surrounded by, immersed in all the different things that are happening here and in the mayor's office. But it's a whole other thing to grow up around, my assumption is to grow
Mm-hmm.
up around Mayor Coleman.
Sure.
And there are people, I forget sometimes, there are people even sitting in this room who don't know what that was like. And for those of us who remember, I mean, talk about one of the most powerful
Yeah.
and by just magnetic
Yes.
personalities still to this day. When he
Yeah.
walks in a room,
For
there's an
sure.
energy and excitement. What was it like to be in his presence, in his company, to learn from him? And even today, I know you guys are still close.
Yeah. I mean, what you are explaining is vision. He was a visionary leader.
Exactly.
He knew where he wanted to take this city. The big thing, especially when I was of age to know what he was doing, was to remember. I don't know if you remember, because I always just laugh at him like he was like my uncle. Like he used to talk about swagger.
Yes.
We're gonna
Oh
bring
my gosh,
swagger
yes.
back.
He did.
Um, and I'm like, only old people say swagger. Even back in 2010, only old people say swagger. But he wanted Columbus to realize who we were.
Right.
And he wanted us to know that he hated, it still hates the term Cowtown, hated it.
Yep.
He truthfully didn't love for folks to say, "Oh, we only know about Columbus because of
A football.
Ohio State." He hated that. He wanted Columbus and worked very hard for us to become proud of ourselves, to get some confidence in who we are and who we are becoming, and what we had the ability to be and become. And he worked very hard to get that done. And so I got to see a person up close, a leader up close, who was in the weeds, but also cast a light just for all of us to follow. And it actually, I mean, in some ways, it was intimidating. Not intimidating, but when people compare me to Coleman or say that, I'm not like Coleman at all. Very, very different. Where, and he understands what I'm saying. Um, I'm an introvert. I hate getting in front of a camera. I hate getting up
Really?
in front of a microphone. Coleman is like, "Where's the
Where's it?
microphone?"
Let me see it. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like his personality is part of the thing that he is selling. His I when I walk into a room, everybody's going to turn.
Right.
Is It was a part of him. I'm not like that. I'm kind of like, can I stand at the back of the room?
Right.
But to have him then, and this is what I think with all mentors, see something in me that I did not see in myself, especially at that time, and say, "No, you're actually the leader that we need," um, meant and means the world to me, because what it highlighted to me was the different types of leadership that one can have,
Right.
and different times
Right.
in where an organization or a city might need a different type of leader. And so it was amazing to learn from him, to see a person who loves the community, and someone who can throw a big vision forward, and everybody get it and follow.
to this day.
Yeah, sure.
So one of the criticisms, though, is that you were sort of gifted
Yeah.
this role in the city. And I have a personal problem with that, which is just everyone is blessed to have parents who want the very best for them and pulls levers for them. And
Sure.
we all get to be around the people who can help move us forward.
Sure.
What's your response when you hear people say that?
Well, one, I'm grateful.
Sure.
I'm grateful for the mentorship of Mayor Coleman. I'm grateful for the advocacy sometimes of the mayor. Um, but there were a whole bunch of other people's kids that worked for Coleman over the 16 years that he was mayor and the 9 years that he was on council. Um, I think that part of it was showing up every weekend, doing those door
That's right.
knockings. I earned every step. Matter of fact, I'll tell you two things. Coleman was very, very hard on me when I was in the mayor's office. Extremely hard on me. Sometimes I did not know. I knew that he had deep care for me, but harder on me than
Others.
others. I remember one time, yeah, I had to prepare a award ceremony for him, and he was going to present grants out to people in the community. Because I'm not like a technical person, I messed up the Excel spreadsheet. And so the name on the award was very different than the grant that was given. And so as he's reading, he's realizing this. He stops the program and calls me up on stage. And he says, if we're going to do this wrong, then you're going to share in this being
Oh.
wrong. It's still to me like this day, one of the most embarrassing work experiences that I've ever had. I left completely deflated. Like, and like
Sure.
it
We've
was,
all been there.
but he was teaching me a lesson about being, like checking the boxes, being precise about what we're doing. Like, this is a thing of excellence. Like, you have to put your all in this. You can't be sloppy. And so I worked really hard to earn this. Secondly, the craziest headline ever about me was the day that I got appointed to council. And it said that City Hall executive's son is appointed to Columbus City Council. When I started working for the city of Columbus, when I was 22, right out of college, I made more than my mom, who had worked in this building for 28 years.
Wow.
And it wasn't that my mom was an executive. It was my mom was the assistant to a lot of a-hole executives.
Right.
Truthfully,
Right.
we can be
Yep.
A-type personalities. She sacrificed so much to give me the proximity to people into this world. And so, if someone says that I was given this, I am still a kid from Southfield
That's right.
whose mom was a secretary who worked hard to allow her child to have an opportunity to be in spaces that a lot of people who say that were born into.
That's exactly right. It's really mind-blowing to me every time I hear it. But as we also look at other paths that brought you here, I was reading last night and didn't know you have done some pretty incredible stuff even around poll workers when you were in high school
Oh, yeah.
with Tanisha Hardin.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I know you and Ty are close
Yes.
and that you go all the way back, but I had no idea that you two were
In high
moving
school.
this whole initiative.
And that's the thing. A lot of people think that Coleman is like my
Right.
only mentor. The mentor that really got me started was my 9th, 10th, and 11th grade teacher, Sarah Thornburg. We had a project where it was the Annenberg Foundation, national competition around the country with schools that said, can local schools, can young people create something that would have a lasting impact after they stop working on it? So example, do not create a food pantry, because once you stop putting food in it, people stop, receiving something. So it was right after the election of 2004. We had seen the lines up in Cleveland where there were 12-hour waits. And we said, well, maybe if young people, because back in the day, the polls, those things used to be huge where you voted, the voting machines were huge. Maybe young people, if they were a part of it, maybe they can move the lines quicker. Maybe they can, and it would have the other benefit of getting them connected to civic engagement. So we started out, we went to then Joyce Beatty, who was a state representative,
Right.
and asked, and our ask was, could you make it an excused absence in school for the state of Ohio for juniors and seniors? And I thought, because I knew it was a good idea, I thought she'd be like, sure, let's go. She said, it sounds promising. Go out and get 500 signatures. People to say, tell me that it's good. And I was like, what?
Here we go again.
Yeah, so she sent us out, and we called ourselves Concerned Citizens for Democracy, these 11th graders, and we went out and we got these signatures. I went back to her, got a Republican co-sponsor, and last I checked, it was like 35,000 young people around the state have participated in
That's
Youth at the Booth.
incredible. I had no idea until I did some research
Yeah,
last
that's
night
cool.
that that was even part of your story. So we talked about your mom working in City Hall, and we've talked about your path forward. I'd love to talk about your dad because
Yeah.
recently on your Instagram account, I saw you dressed up as what I would categorize as a cowboy,
Yeah.
which was really sort of surprising to see. I had no idea there's a history with horses and that whole background. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I have so many like jokes in my head that
Right
I'm like,
now?
I'm not gonna go there.
Right? Not today.
Not just there. Yeah, so I mean, folks may not know, before mom and dad got divorced, and even through the divorce, and it's actually one of the blessings of my life, and I think it allows me to maneuver in our city so well, I guess. My dad raised and trained American quarter horses when I was first born. My mom and dad had a farm in Delaware, Ohio, Sunbury, where my dad trained horses. My dad was a Republican. He was when he was a kid, founded Young Black Republicans. And so yeah, he trained quarter horses. My mom and dad got divorced when I was about 5 years old. He moved down to Maysville, Kentucky, and we had built out 100-acre horse farm down there, and we stayed in Columbus with my mom, who lived on Long Street, across from like East High School, around East High School area. And so I would have these two very different lives. During the week, we'd be on Long Street,
Sure.
and on the weekend, we would be on the 100-acre horse farm, riding four-wheelers and fishing in old ponds and having that experience. And so we have a deep fondness, my family, for horses. We spent a lot of time at the Quarter Horse Congress here in Columbus. My father passed when I was a freshman in college. And so our family goes back to the Congress every year, almost just as a way to be closer in memory of that time. Not even that time of our life. It is still a big part of who we are.
That's incredible. What a great story. Now that you've been on council for 11 years, there's a lot to look back on as far as accomplishments. And I'm curious what you think some of those big accomplishments would be since you've been here.
You know, I was gonna say it's not one thing, but actually is one thing. But what I think big picture, what I'm proud of is leadership during tough times. Um, who would have imagined? I was elected by my peers in 2018 as council president, 3 years after being on council. I was elected. I was the youngest council president. Had just turned 30. And I remember very much so wanting to make sure that, because I was so young, you started saying that my age wasn't a thing. I wanted to make sure that because I was so young, that I could prove to this community that we could still keep the trash being picked up and the roads plowed, and we could do the mundane part of governing and do it well. And we did for 2 years. We even did some big stuff in the first couple years, like we passed the ticket fee. And that was a really big deal. I think the reason that people let us start playing around to do it because they didn't think that we could do it.
Right.
We had to literally bring together the entire community and say that the arts deserve the funding, that we would put this fee on all admissions. We had to go back and forth with Ohio State University. And literally, I think people would say that it saved the arts. And this came out of our office. This year, just because the ticket fee raised nearly $27 million for the arts. But fast forward 2 years, who would have thought we would have been in a pandemic
Right.
that would have to shut the world down?
Right.
And I remember trying to lead through that, to tell people that you need to stay home for 2 weeks and not scare them. I remember a video what I did on my front porch. I tried to do it really like, guys, yeah, take a break.
Well,
It'll be
this is good.
2 weeks,
It'll
right?
be fine.
But it's going to be okay.
We'll
And
be
I'm
back.
like, knowing that this is about to be a big deal, but I didn't want to scare folks into it.
Right.
but not even knowing that was just the beginning. That in 3 short months, we would be having a national conversation around race that would, at some point, pull me in very closely, me getting pepper spray with Congresswoman Beatty and Commissioner Boyce, to then turning that into quick action on legislative progress to do police reform in 2020, to ban no-knock warrants, um, to create the Office of Inspector General, and to create a civilian review board. Again, I had been in this building for 10 years before that. I knew that you could not even say the words civilian review board in the city hall because it was seen as anti-police. When it wasn't, it was just who else gets to investigate themselves. Even if they are the best to investigate yourselves, it doesn't pass the sniff test. Like,
Hmm.
nothing, right? But even looking past that, it was, thinking about several years later when we were going through um, uh, 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 other moments in our history, even truthfully, Israel, Gaza, and council being squarely in the middle of a very, very tough conversation and trying to keep our community together and say, these are two communities that mean so much to us,
That's right.
to all of us,
That's right.
that in Columbus, we have to be able to do this better. Can we not show the world a way that we can have conversations, how we can see people as people, and do so? But I think there is the one thing that I'm most proud of, and it's the Columbus Promise. The Columbus Promise says that if you go to Columbus City Schools and you graduate, that you get to go to college for free.
Which is incredible.
It is incredible. It is incredible, and I'm grateful because um, what it did for folks, it did for young people who never thought that college was for them, was give them
A chance.
a chance, hope. As much as, and again, the promise doesn't just say you get to go to college for free. It also says you get $1,000 stipend to stay in school each year, because we know that kids don't drop out of school because of tuition. They drop out because their car breaks down
That's right.
or the rent raises. Um, but I did it also for the parents, because we were starting to see Columbus change and us do really cool things. I mean, we saved the crew.
That's right.
We built a park out of the bottom of the river and created a downtown park. We had changed, and they're seeing us do all these huge, big, cool, exciting things. And they were starting to ask them, well, how is that having an impact on my life? And I kept on thinking back to Southfield, where I grew up. And, you know, what could we do that was demonstrably for people? And it came down to the promise, which is for everyone, that your child now has the opportunity to build their lives and build their lives here in Columbus, debt free. Um, and to now see the kids who are in the program, the thousands of young people that are in the program, the hundreds that are coming out, and who, it's those stories. I mean, it gets me every day when I'm stopped at Kroger, when they're saying I'm a Promise Scholar. Um, it will, it will, it's the thing I'm most proud of by a lot.
I think it says a lot. We see in the news or locally, we talk about investments in places and spaces and all of those different aspects. But sometimes we don't pay attention to the investment in our own people,
Yeah,
especially the next generation of
sure.
people. And so I feel like that really, it hits that nail on the head.
For sure. I mean, I love the way you say it as an investment,
It is.
because it's an investment in our future. It's not just the altruistic, like, this is a good thing to do. If we don't have a trained workforce, then what good is this growth that we're creating all these jobs if the people that are here are not prepared for them? And so it is definitely one of those investments in our own future that we will reap the returns of that.
As we think about LinkUS, and I know how involved you've been and for how long, I think it'd be great for other people to hear that story too.
Yeah. LinkUS in 2024, when we put it on the ballot, did not just come out of
Thin air.
thin air. When I first came on the council in 2014, I was the chair of the Public Service and Transportation Committee. Still one of my favorite assignments as in city government was being the
Really?
chair of that committee. Yeah, because it's like the thing that most people call about and care about: sidewalks, roads. Got to drive like in snow trucks. Like, I
Right?
loved it. I loved it. But I realized how important um, infrastructure was to a city. Literally, not to like cars, but to people, how you live and how you are connected. And so in 2015, there were several different studies that were starting to think about the future of Columbus. And one we did in-house, the Department of Public Service. Then CODA did another one, and then MORPSI started talking about. And so we had all these like planning conversations, but they weren't brought together. So in 2015, we pulled together the Insight 2050 conversation, and it was to bring, instead of having these three different conversations, have one big conversation around the future of Columbus. And it was the first time to show Columbus is going to grow, and the first number said that we were going to grow by 500,000 people. And then we went out and socialized that. We went out, and it was myself and Yarmir Steiner, and we went out and socialized the idea that we are going to grow as a city. And it took off. It took 2 years or so to everybody to get this is what growth is going to look like. And so then we followed it up because we know that growing without focus is not actually a good thing.
No.
It creates sprawl. It makes it much more expensive. So then we came back and we chaired, Yarmir and I, the Insight 2050 Corridors study, which said if you focus growth on certain corridors, then you can save with underground infrastructure, because you can if the people are on these corridors, then that means that the infrastructure can be in those corridors, that we could save $10 billion, that we could lower emissions, that we could build more housing if we just focus growth on these corridors. If you look at those corridors, those are the exact corridors that we use for LinkUS. They are East Main Street. They are West Broad Street. They are Olentangy. They are some way going down south to Rickenbacker, because we know that that's a huge job center. And so we went out there and we did that work for years and years and years to get people socialized that we should focus growth. We should do this. And we and then we went out and got the business community to buy in, that we needed to have transportation. We knew that, I used to say this all the time, if we know that Columbus, and in the 2020s, we knew that Columbus was going to grow more than 500,000, upwards of 1 million. If we know that Columbus doesn't grow by 1 million people, and we know that 80% of us use a car, single occupancy vehicle, we know that we can't add 800,000 cars to our streets and not have a impact on our ability to move around. We will become Atlanta, where we have Sunday traffic. And so I went out and I was seeing this everywhere we go, and it picked up. We thought that we were going to go, I think in 22 or 23, in 2022, and we saw that's when inflation started. And we knew that this was a moonshot to talk to a community about making this type of investment. And we knew we had to go big, because we were the last city that didn't have high capacity transit. So it wasn't like we were adding a line. We were saying, let's build an entire system.
Which is a really big undertaking.
It's huge. I mean, and this is not me patting myself on my back. I am so grateful for Columbus. And this is why I believe in the city so much. And we will be able to face any big issue, and we will be able to grow. Our biggest thing is growth.
Right.
How do we tackle it? How do we manage it? How do we focus it? How do we make it good for the folks that are here and welcome into all our new neighbors? What Columbus did last year, what Central Ohio did last year in supporting LinkUS, was something that has not been done before. We voted to invest in ourselves to fix a problem that we actually don't yet have.
That's exactly right.
That is huge. No other city has done that. Tennessee, Nashville is trying to pass a transit levy, but it's because all the people are already there. And now the folk do all the fighting. Austin trying to pass a levy, but it's after all these folks are there. We had the foresight to as a community, say we will make this investment for ourselves, but also for our children. And it blows my mind.
It's really hard, I think, still, and maybe you find yourself in this situation, to explain or to describe to people just how transformative it will be.
There will be Columbus before LinkUS and after LinkUS.
Exactly right.
100%.
The other part of LinkUS that I don't know that a lot of people are aware of is the TOD component to it. So for those of you who don't know what the TOD is, that's what we're talking about on the corridors with the development.
For sure.
That's where the housing and the business and everything comes into place. And I heard you recently talk at the ULI event. You shared your vision for it, and you were pretty matter of fact about how this is going to, look and what you want. And what is going to be best for the city along those. Talk a little bit about the TOD component
Sure.
to this.
So again, everything goes back to those corridor concept
Right,
study
right.
in 2018 and 2015. It didn't say just build transit. The only way you build the transit, so that's the first piece. So then you can build a lot of housing. Well, you can't build a lot of housing if you need to park cars. And so what we did alongside of LinkUS was City Council then took up zoning
Yes.
that allowed for us to build higher buildings, more units, more density along the corridors. We voted to take away parking requirements along the corridors. Why? Because we had faith that Columbus would invest in the transit that will be along the corridors. So fast forward, we took the corridors, and by right on those corridors, you could have built 6,000 units by right. After we upzoned the corridors, so outside, right along the corridor, you could build 88,000.
Say that again.
It went from by right, so
As
you can build 6,000 units, to after council voted last year to upzone, you can build 88,000 units.
88,000.
88,000 units. And again, that would not be possible if then LinkUS didn't pass, where then those folks don't need actually a car in the future.
Right.
Because they will have this very high capacity transit that has on time, level boarding, something that Columbus has just never seen before. It will be completely transformative. And when we think about it, so the city now has a line around this. Development and where people build will need to align around this. But we don't need just housing there.
That's right.
We need hospitals along the corridor. We need
Daycare.
schools along the corridor. We need daycares along the corridor. We need groceries along the corridors. And so that's the conversation now that we're inviting everybody into is we're about to put $8.8 billion in the ground in physical infrastructure that our voters voted for. That should then be very clear that this now is our city's roadmap. This is our city's master plan. And what we now have to be very cautious about is it's going to click. I don't know if it's this year, next year, or 3 years from now. It's going to click that with that kind of investment that that people should be there, should be close to it. So I'm really big on encouraging the city to buy land along the corridor now, because very soon,
That's right.
it will be the most expensive land in the city.
That's right.
Is if you're on the corridors, one of the corridors. And so if we really want those to be mixed use communities where everybody can afford to be and not need a car, then we are going to have to find ways to make sure that we preserve affordability along those corridors that we are building out now. And that's hard, and it has to be very intentional. And I think the city has to take the lead on that. We have to say, because we won't be able to incentivize enough to get affordability when there's an 18-story or 16-story building along West Broad Street. And they're not going to, I mean, our tax incentives will not be enough to buy down affordability. But if we own land and we brought another thing to the package, then maybe we can build about some affordability. So that's the next phase. It was really big to get to where we are, where LinkUS is going to happen. And we have zoning that will mean we can build more. But implementation and how thoughtful we are about connectivity and about who gets to be a part of those communities that we're going to build over these next several years. And also, how do we mitigate the impact of even the construction for those small businesses along, for the neighbors that are going to really have their lives impacted for the next couple of years? How do we keep affordability along? This is the hard work. And this is why I was calling everybody at ULI to come together. We need everybody at the table understanding this is the future. Now help us make it the right future for all of us.
When you had a map and you were talking about the corridors and you said this is the vision, and I think the room collectively, it clicked and we were all like, there it is. And this is what we're going to look to, and this is what we can look forward to, and this is going to be the conversation moving forward.
Yep.
Part of that conversation continues to be housing. You
Yes.
talked about it along the corridors. I know you're incredibly passionate about it. You have personal stories around it when it comes to your own family.
For sure.
We all do, right?
I mean, when I think about what keeps me up at night is the other side of growth.
That's right.
displacement. I talk about Southfield, where my mom raised us. After we moved from Longstreet, my mom bought our first house in Longstreet. Bought it in 1997, $88,000. She paid it off last 2 months ago, and it's still only worth 120,000. So think about that. In Columbus, you know how housing
Right,
prices in
right.
Columbus. So picture now that neighborhood in Columbus. It's lower middle class. Most people down there actually do own their homes. They're custodians. They are probably government workers who, were making just enough to buy a house in the 90s. But maybe 3 months ago, I drove down there and I saw my first flipped house. And then what really blew my mind, I had never seen this. I saw there's a new build happening the street over. We've never had and so if it is getting to Southfield, which is on the furthest edges of Columbus, then this growth thing, and this is what it is that, and this is why I focus so much on housing. One, we are creating about 17,000 new jobs a year, but we're building about 7,000 housing units. So by a delta of 10,000, we are successing ourselves into failure.
We're kicking the can because we were already in a deficit before.
We were
all of
already in
this.
deficit,
Right.
and now we're not building enough. And what that means is the people that live in Southfield now who can afford their homes. Now my mom's house is paid off, but the kicker now, she has to pay the property taxes.
That's right.
And we all saw last year property taxes went up 42% on average. And so what I think about my friends in Nashville, you call your friends in Nashville or Austin. If they don't make $150,000, $200,000 and they're trying to buy a house, they're not be able to buy a house inside the city. They're 10, 15 miles out. And that might be cool for the folks that are coming, but it's not cool for the families that have been here in Southfield. It really hit home to me last year when my niece, my stepmother, and my niece lived together, her grandmother, and my niece was going away to college, and I thought she was calling me to tell me about her classes she was enrolling in, but she called me and said, "Uncle, grandmother, and thus I are getting evicted." This is after she's going away to college, and she said, "I'd already say, Uncle, I already give grandmother $300 a month because she's on fixed income. She gets $1,200 a month from Social Security. Their rent was $900, so that was their delta already." An out-of-state company bought the small little apartment complex and raised the rent to $1,700. She said, "Even with me working, I can't
That's right.
keep her in this house." We were able to, because of the ARPA dollars and emergency rental dollars, keep them in their house for a month or two. But they were displaced. They were kicked out of the house, homeless. If they were not able to find rentals, they were farther out, much farther out. They would be homeless.
And we talk about that and we hear those stories. But what I think is missing from the conversation is the mental load that is on a person, a family. When you talk about, I don't want to say trauma necessarily, but in some
It is
cases,
trauma,
yes,
for sure.
there's a whole other human component to housing that is beyond just the stats and the units.
I met with the other day a young lady who told me a story of being in 2020. She was in a program to buy a house, but it was a condo. It was $100,000. She and her husband just had a child. Her husband left her and she got COVID. She lost her job, got kicked out of the program, so was not able to buy that house. She was then able to find an apartment for $1,000 a month, more than she would have paid. Her mortgage would have been $600. Her apartment was then $1,000. 2 months ago, she was evicted from that apartment because her apartment too got bought out by someone out of state, and the rent was raised to $1,800. She could not afford that. Her and her daughter are living in someone's basement, so they're not homeless. But what she said to me, which will stick with me, and to your point, she said, "Now I feel like I'm a parasite to this city." Like, that gets to me. Like, to think that somebody just that almost had it, and just because of this city's growth, and nothing that she did would feel like, because she needs a little help now to get back in. And again, these were forces that were outside of her control anyways, would do that. I mean, that is, and what And why that gets to me is that this is not one or two people's stories. These are thousands of people's stories. And I don't think that this city government, I don't think that any of us are really moving with the urgency
That's right.
and really acting with the urgency of folks, thousands of people being forced into those situations. It's trauma. It is definitely trauma that they are experiencing. And this is just the beginning if we don't drastically do something.
And you're well smart enough to know that when we talk about that trauma, when it comes to housing, we're talking about kids.
Children.
And then we're talking about instability when it comes to education,
Yeah.
when it comes to consistency, when it comes to all of these different pieces and parts and what that looks like in the next generation because of housing.
Because of housing.
Because of housing.
And I try to connect all the dots for all of us.
Right.
Thinking about the business leaders who everybody's now starting to see Clemson starting to have a homeless problem.
And some don't like the way that looks.
No, they don't like the way it looks.
I don't want that. And that needs
You're
cleaned
stepping
up.
over these folks.
Correct.
And what is going on? Well, homelessness is a byproduct of a housing market that is off.
That's right.
If you go to the family center that my friend Liz Brown runs,
Yes.
40% of those families, all have children, are working.
That's right.
Our shelters used to be, truthfully,
Yep.
folks that were struggling with mental illness and folks who had addiction. That is not the situation right now. These are working people who have been priced out of their homes. And if you think that we have a homelessness problem now, just wait. Just wait. This is the thing about city growth. It's linear. You can look at other cities and just see where they are 10, 15 years ahead of us.
You've talked about that with Austin.
Yes.
About how you talked to that
Council president.
and
Yes.
what their take on us is, which is
They said double down.
like
now. You better try to fix this thing while you can, because it gets to a point that you can't. And I like when you say, like, we have to make this investment. There have been conversations even here at the city about, do we fund emergency shelters or winter warming shelters? I remember on the coldest day last year, I went out and I went to go check because we said our recreation centers were open as a warming center. We went to one of the centers. It was not open. I was pissed, all pissed off. But what got me sick was there was a mother and a 6-year-old daughter sitting outside the rec center. Went over to talk to her. She said, we live in Van Buren. And because of the day, they're not allowed to stay in the building in the day. They were outside, sitting on the bench in front of our rec center. These are children. And we are not moving with the urgency. We are not acting as if we are in a pull-out crisis. And I take that on as a city. I take that on as a, and this is where we bring everybody to the table.
That's right.
Because it's true that folks don't feel safe and businesses won't grow and there won't be engagement if we have a homelessness issue all downtown and folks everywhere. And so we do need to do the things that will make sure that people are housed. And that is where we should make the investment if you don't want to see this problem grow. But let's not fool ourselves, or let's not also understand that at the end of the day, this is about families and dignity. And if you thought that we had learning loss during the pandemic where kids were not in school for 2 years, just think about a community where folks are living in shelter and trying to go to school. Talk about learning loss and our inability to be prepared for the future. These are the things that we really have to be focused on and act on now if we really want to build a future city for the future.
As we talk about the future, what do you think? What's the vision? What are we looking at in the next couple of years? Obviously, things are changing at the Fed,
Sure.
the state.
Sure.
So it's not just what we have going on. There are other factors that then influence where we are.
Most definitely. I think that, if it wasn't for this destabilized world that we're living in, Columbus would be on a pretty okay glide path.
Yep.
Pretty upward. We might have like dips in a little bit, but we would be on a pretty smooth upward glide. I think, and this is how I think about it now, nationally, we're going through a process of defederalization, if I'm being very kind. Germany went through this after the Second World War, where they were scared of their national government. So they chose we're going to bring power back down to cities and states. We're doing the opposite, where the government's just saying, we're not going to do that anymore. That thing that we used to do, like housing to support you and folks in the local level, we're not going to do that anymore. Hell, because of the shutdown, things like food, we're not figured out. And it would be cool if they also say, and here's the money back. That is not what they did. They took the resources out and now look at cities and states, truthfully, and say it's on you all. Well, our state is a peon to the national government. They are following the same
That's
marching
right.
orders. So now, literally, it is just us.
It's you.
It's just us in the city level, and it's going to be painful. If the most traumatized people in Columbus right now are human service leaders, because I say they see the future. They know that they don't have any more money.
Okay.
They know that there's no more money coming. And they also are talking to the people who are hungry, who don't have housing. And they, for the first time, feel completely hopeless. People will be hurt over the next couple of years because cities were not built to do everything like this. We definitely are built to say one sector or one human service provider, maybe five. Maybe, we can do that. We can't save the whole sector. We weren't built for that. But what we have to do now is to build a new muscle. How do we do it all on our own? And the way that we do that is to literally double, triple down. Right? Some folks hate it, but triple down on the Columbus way. You have to triple down on public-private partnerships. Triple down on public-private partnerships, because those companies that, again, may not like the visual of homelessness, they understand what that economic impact will be. And so they're going to have to give more. Nonprofits are going to have to be more creative and see how they can leverage off of one another. See what my friends Tony Cunningham and Elizabeth Martinez are doing at the Godman Guild and Boys and Girls, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and coming together and sharing. We're going to have to do more of that. Individuals are going to have to step up and support their neighbors in ways that they never have. We are going to go through a period where we're going to grow a muscle of how we do this on our own. But once we grow that muscle, once we figure this out, once we use innovation to say, wait a minute, you know that cities own more land than the federal government? What if we did some creative financing off of stuff that we already own? Like, can we, what are the big ideas that make cities more autonomous anyways? And we never had to think like that because we had a state federal government, but trust me, we're here. We are here. There's no savior coming. And even if things were to change politically, it wouldn't happen quick enough so we are going to have to, but this is the good thing. Once we get this muscle, once we learn how to be a strong, truly city state, who can stop us?
Well, I think it's really interesting that you say that. And I think it's worth really pointing out. We have to think different.
Yeah.
And big ideas
Big ideas.
and creative, and maybe even how city government plays a role in our lives is going to look different in the future. I think
For sure.
the Fed and the state and everything that's going on is making all of us have to look at things differently. What's working, what's not, but also how can we do it better? And it may be a different model in the future of how things are done.
It will have to be a
Yeah,
different model.
absolutely.
The system is breaking.
Yeah.
We're going to go through a process of the system breaking, but what I believe is that Columbus is uniquely situated because we have such strong relationships with the public and private sector, because we have a unified and organized nonprofit sector. We're going to have to think differently on our relationships, say, with the schools. The schools may not be able to be out there by themselves the way they are right now. I was with the superintendent yesterday. They have to find $50 million next year because the state took it away from them. I believe, and I think they're projecting to lose another $50 million. We can't just we're going to have to find a way to come together and do these things together and say, this is all our responsibility. How do we figure this out together? How do we stack hands? Every issue will be our issue now. And one of the things that scares me is that I feel like even in the city right now, that innovation is looked at with a cynical eye. Big ideas are not encouraged and supported.
Really?
Like we need to lift up those things that have never been done before. If we have 10 big ideas and 7 of them fail, but 3 of them do work, those are huge opportunities to move our city forward in a new and productive way. And again, I know Columbus can do this because of LinkUS. The fact that they did that big thing and were that thoughtful about investing in their future, if we continue to have that same energy where we can do it, we can make our investments in ourselves, we can see the vision of where we are going in a city that is bigger, but also better, that is more inclusive, that allowed for us to raise wages and create more jobs, that allow for us to have schools and walkable communities, that was not ideological, but that was focused on the issues of the day. that folks were able to see their role in not just city government, but taking care of their neighbor and themselves and their families. That's the vision for Columbus. It is a bigger community where all of us are doing better.
Shannon, I am making an assumption that some days feel like everywhere you must be turning is just some sort of, I don't want to say crisis,
No crisis.
crisis. And I'm curious if you're willing to be vulnerable enough. I can assume what that might be like for a council president, but I'm curious what it's like for you as a person, as a human, to turn around 10 times a day
Sure.
and the toll that that might take.
What was I talking to you yesterday about this? It's traumatic, but I am a person of strong faith. And all I can thinking about is God must have thought a lot of us, not just me, to put us in leadership in this moment. Because every time that we've had crises in our country or in our community, there have been leaders who've been able to step up and who have been there to be able to shepherd through. This is going to be hard, and this is hard. And I want people to know this is not normal. The way that, and this is what I'm saying. This is what I was telling the other leader. This is not just us, though. Residents are feeling something too. They are feeling traumas in their own ways. We are just at a different level of it because we have a different responsibility with it. But everybody is feeling off, and so um, my chief of staff got me a shirt that says "Pressure is a privilege," and then someone the other day told me that you got to find joy in purpose, and because things are so hard, I know that every day that I'm able to get up and to do my work, I have purpose. And so I find joy in the purpose in this moment. These are the hardest things that we will ever. This is the moment.
Yes,
This is as hard. This is about as good as it gets.
it's right here.
We are in a new moment, and yet we are leading through it. We are getting through it. We are stacking hands. We are becoming more hopeful. We are inspiring folks that we can do this, and I promise we can.
I want to ask two questions before we wrap up. One is when we talk about politics in general and the Democratic Party in general, and I'm a Democrat, and some may say that I'm a more liberal Democrat, but I would argue that I'm just an educated and active Democrat. The politics for Dems are changing.
Yeah.
Voters feel different. And whether we're talking about state or whether we're talking about local Dems and we're talking about the party, do you, sitting in your seat and maybe council, recognize that what Democratic voters, they might be frustrated, they might be angry, they might be looking for a change?
Sure.
Are you all feeling that, seeing that? Do you?
If folks are not seeing that, then they're idiots. The whole system is changed, and they want it to break. And I would take it bigger than Democrats. It's everybody.
Absolutely.
And this would be the failure or the misstep of my party right now. If you are thinking the way to fight back on what's going is to say we got to go back to where we came from, then you missed the whole point. They wanted the thing to break because it wasn't working for them in the first place. Even though regardless if there was a Democrat or Republican in local, state, or federal, their lives were not changing. They didn't feel it. They didn't see it. Regardless of on the local level, who was in these different offices, they were still feeling the struggle. And so we have to think about this thing in a whole different way. They want an authentic conversation. They want to be treated as adults. They do not want one party and that's the thing. Columbus's growth is coming from two areas: young people and new Americans. Both of those communities don't have this long affinity with a party.
Yep.
What they want are issues. Talk to me about how you're going to keep me housed. Talk to me about educating my child. Talk to me about food on the table. Talk to me about creating a social environment where my queer or trans child can still live and be a part of this community. Talk to me about these things. Don't come to me with just a Democratic sample ballot and say that's it. They don't care about that. They don't care about party anymore. They care about issues.
That's right.
And if we keep running the same play, we will lose. And rightfully so. And again, it's not just Democrats. Republicans did it too. They took up that. What did the president say back in 2016? What do you have to lose?
That's right.
They took him up on that.
Right.
And in communities that had not felt the progress of progressive conversation and movement, they said, what do we have to lose?
That's right.
And
Something
that's how we got
different.
here. That's how we got here.
As we look forward, I know that there's a lot of conversation about what your future looks like. Are you ready to talk about if you're going to run for mayor?
Well, I think that what I am focused on right now is making sure that in this moment that I am doing what I have to do to get people even through the next couple months. I think that we have a very, very challenging, I say the last 9 months have been about the fear of the federal
That's
government.
right.
The next 9 months will be about the impacts of the federal
We'll
government.
start to see it.
So as other people are talking about my political career and if I'm running for mayor or not, I'm talking about how we feed people, how we house people, and how we educate people. Other than that, I don't give a damn. That seriously is my focus. How do we feed people? How do we house people? And how do we educate people? Because we're gonna go through a period of time where we're gonna have to prioritize what we focus on. And let me be clear again. It is how do we house people? How do we keep people fed? And how do we make sure that when we come out of this thing, that we will have young people in particular, but even adults that have the credentials to seize the day. That is what I'm focused on right now.
I love that. Thank you so much for your time today, and I hope that we can come back next
Yes,
year
yes,
and have
yes.
another
I would love it.
conversation. We'll see, and um, sending a lot of prayers and thoughts to everyone who's trying to lead
Yeah,
during this, and especially those who are going to face some really tough challenges as we
For
head
sure.
into the holiday season.
for sure.
Thank
But
you.
we can do it here
We
in
can do
Columbus.
it.
We do it.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, friend.